starting to sound like Kamala. Alright, we're going to get into the video of the Glock video that we're going to get into. Does that sound more like Kamala? Alright, so anyway, this is my everyday carry Glock 22. Okay? Right here on camera, we're going to drop the magazine. Alright, it's safe, right? If you said yes, then you're wrong. There we go. Now it's safe. Oops, I knocked the camera. Now it's safe. And now we can do the visual, right? Down the barrel. Put our little pinky in there. We can feel the barrel. Bam. Alright. Now, this weapon is safe. I never pull that lever when releasing my slide because I had a Colt. And I did that. It was like my first really good semi-auto. It was a Colt Mustang Model 80. Beautiful little gun. And I noticed that when the magazine would empty, it was failing to lock back. And that's because the metal on the nickel slide was starting to bend backwards, and the slide stop wasn't functioning. And I took that as because I was scraping it to slide that slide forward. So that's why I do not use that. It works. Now, if I was in a situation where this hand was not available, I might drop it just to get it chambered and ready to fire. If you're in a live combat situation, you don't want to mess around. You want to do things as quickly as possible. But anyway, let's move on over to the bench and we'll continue this over there. Alright guys, here we are on the bench. Gun is still safe, by the way. What we're going to do now is we're going to field strip this completely down for a full detail cleaning. Okay? And I'm going to show you how to take it all the way down. The only thing we will not do is remove roll pins. It does not need to go down that far for a really good detail cleaning. And I'll explain that in a second. Alright, so we're going to drop the striker. We're going to do a little handshake. We're going to pull down both pieces at the same, or both levers at the same time. We're going to slide forward and off. Alright, sometimes I will address the lower first. Sometimes I'll do it last. But really, what I do is I take compressed air and I blow the living crap out of this, right? And then I may put a few drops here and there, and then get my toothbrush. It's the one I use every day. It keeps my teeth nice and shiny because of all the oil. But anyway, I'll scrub it down, scrub the mag well down, I'll oil it up. And then I'll take patches like these right here, and I'll dry the heck out of them. Get out of here. And I'll dry it up as much as I can, and I'll take more compressed air, you know, like those duster things for computers. And I'll just blow the excess oil out of there really good. And then I'll take patches with the Break Free. I use Break Free. It's not in here. It's on my bench in the house, or I would show you. But I use a patch with Break Free. I'll scrub it with my trusty toothbrush. All the guides right here, right? And then I'll take the pads and I'll wipe all of the crusties out. And I won't put any oil on these when I put it back together, but I will show you what I do. Alright, so here is the slide. Okay, of course, the spring. Everybody knows how to pull the barrel out on the Glock, I hope. If not, here it is. Pretty simple, right? Whoa! Whoa, that spring flew over there. That spring's a little springy. Alright, so here's the barrel. I just put that all over to the side. I like to use bore snakes. I don't use those brushes, you know, scrub brushes and stuff. That is a waste of time. I will coat the entire barrel and let it all drip down, and I'll look through it with light and make sure that everything's coated. And then while I'm doing everything else, I just leave that over there and I don't even touch it until I'm ready to put it back together. Alright, so this is what you see after you get the barrel out, okay? this here is the button. The button. Just in case you did not know, when you pull the trigger, it drops down this little lever here, and that's what releases the striker or the firing pin. Okay, and then when the slide comes back, it will flip this little lever back up right here, and that catches the firing pin. Okay, and it pulls the firing pin back, or striker. I don't want to get yelled at by all of the YouTube gunsmiths out there. You wouldn't believe how many times I got yelled at. That's not a firing pin, that's a striker. Okay? You call it what you want. Alright, and then as you can see, as I'm pulling the trigger, right, that drops down and releases the firing pin. Alright? And then the slide goes back, and then as it's coming back, pops that back up, catches it again. And that's how it resets the trigger. Okay? God, it's a shitty trigger pull on these Glocks. Alright, so now for the moment that everybody's been waiting for, the disassembly of the slide. Okay? And what brings this up is I was cleaning my weapon, and when I had the firing pin out, there was a bunch of copper shavings. It was only about 400 rounds through the weapon since the last time I pulled it out. Copper shavings is not normal, at least at that rate, so I don't know if it's cheap ammo or the weapon is shaving copper. Something to look into. But anyway, this is the end plate. In order to get the end plate off to expose the firing pin and the other rod in here, I don't know what that's called. Maybe somebody can enlighten me on that. And it's pretty darn simple. Okay, you take a little screwdriver. In this case, I'm going to use a little Allen wrench, and right here there's like a plastic sleeve. You have to pull that down. Let me see if I can get that on camera. Pull that down. It takes a little effort, and then once you do, the end plate will slide off just like that. Okay? And then once the end plate is off, obviously, that little guy wanted to evacuate. And you don't have to really worry about losing anything because it's not really that many things in here. But all you got to do to get the firing pin out is just to pull it out right like that. And that's it. Get your toothbrush and some brake free and just scrape all those little grooves out, because those grooves are what works with this little lever here, because I believe this lever has to be pushed in order for the firing pin to go forward. It's kind of like a safety feature, so you don't get no Sig Sauer self-discharging firearm. Okay, so that's that. And what I was telling you about metal shavings, I started seeing them over here. So I finished pulling it apart. Here's this little rod right here. Okay, and you'll see there's a spring on that there, and that spring there is for the extractor. Okay, this little guy right here. Right now, the extractor is really loose in there, right? But it still won't come out. And that's because this little pin here, let me get my trusty Allen wrench. This little pin here has to be pushed all the way down like this, right? And then the extractor will come out. Okay? And there you go. And it goes in pretty self-explanatory, okay? Don't be scared to do this. You can do it. Trust me. Alright. So this is the only piece that you need to be careful not to lose, is this spring right here, because this spring will come out. Okay? It kind of sticks in there good, but if your firearm's got some miles on it, it might come out. So just make sure you do not lose that. Alright, so now this thing is completely apart. The only thing other than that you can pull off are the sights, and we're not going to be doing that. We don't need to. So a Q-tip will fit down this hole beautifully. You can see it right there. Now that's where all those metal shavings were. So I stuck a Q-tip in there. I twirled it. I could see the tip out of where the firing pin comes out. And I just swirled it, and I kept putting fresh ones in there with break free on them and stuff. And then I started using dry ones to dry it out, because you don't want a lot of oil inside the firing pin, chamber, bore, whatever you want to call it, hole. You don't need a lot of oil in there, just enough to clean any carbon out of there, or in my case, metal shavings. Okay, so when you start to put these pieces back together, have a patch or something. Have a patch with a little bit of oil, so you can just wipe everything down, right? And then you can start putting it back together. Oh, well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let me rewind a bit. Okay. When it's apart like this, I douse it with break free. Let it set for 20 minutes or so, and then I get my toothbrush. I clean all the tracks out, all the guide tracks here, because that's where all the carbon builds up. And if this gets gunky, your slide is going to start grinding and slowing down, and that's when you start getting feed jams, extraction jams, overall BS. Okay, so I take my toothbrush and I get everywhere. I even scrub it with toothbrush here, you know, the sides, get all the crud out, because I don't know about you, but after carrying for a while, these sights start to get covered in dust. But anyway, all right. So again, you just patch everything and dry it up really good. You can even take Q-tips and detail clean all the little grooves out. You can see those flat areas right there. That's where the upper part of the barrel, that's where it slides on, right there. Okay, so it's important to keep that nice and clean. You can actually see the imprints where it slides. Okay, so it's important to keep all moving areas, all contact points clean. All right, so okay, let's go ahead and let's put this slide back together. I've already detail cleaned this, so I don't need to do it again. All right, so first step is to get the extractor back in there correctly. Okay, and you'll see a little round part right here. This goes to the back side, because there's a little hole right there that it goes into. Okay, you can't put it all the way in until you get this little doodad right here. Whoops. See how that spring just fell out? That's exactly what I was talking about. All right. So we take... Don't go in there yet. You can't go home yet. All right. So we place this guy in here, and we push it down almost all the way in. There you go. And it'll go in flush. Mine's a little deeper than flush. And then you just kind of... Whoops. I'm going to leave that in there because it was funny. It ejected my little button because I moved it around in the wrong way. But that's okay, because everybody makes mistakes, and I just pulled it out in the wrong way. Okay, so let's get this back in here. Okay, let it up. Okay, it's in there now. All right, so now this here, for the extractor, this keeps tension on it, and that spring faces in. And again, wipe it all down with light oil, not a lot, and that'll stay right there for a moment. And you get the striker firing pin, and it goes with the little lever up, of course, the pin part in, and you just whoop, right like that. Okay, now putting this on is kind of the same. You just have to make sure that it goes right. It goes like that. The grooves face down if it was upright. Okay, so let's start to get them in the grooves. And at this point, you can just push this down and slide it on. Okay? This little part here will need to be pushed in. And then when you hear that click, you know it is back together. Okay? And you can feel the extractor is nice and tight. It's pivoting like it's supposed to. Okay? And then it's just basically putting it back together. And this is where I would drop a drop of oil, a tiny drop of oil on each side. And then when I put this thing back in, I get it jammed up, right? I just move it around like that, just to spread the oil, lock it into place, put the recoil spring, oops, put it in there right. The C-clamp, now they did make different styles of these through generations, but it's pretty much the same. You know, this nice flat edge goes backwards, goes toward the rear of the slide, right? And when you get the spring in, it pretty much has to be even with the upper or the slide, because if it's up too high, it will not go back together. All right, folks. Last part. I said that I don't put any oil here. What I do is I hold the slide like this, and I put a nice droplet there, put a nice droplet there, and I watch it until it runs all the way down, or at least halfway. And that's when I slide the two pieces back together. We get remarried. Dun, 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 right? And it locks in. All right? Okay, so function test to make sure everything is resetting and working correctly. Rack it, pull the trigger, hold the trigger back, rack it again, and then let the trigger out slowly. Okay? Bam. There we go. So she's back in working order. Okay? Wasn't too difficult, right? Alright guys, well that will wrap it up for this video. I really hope this helped you disassemble your Glock 22. If not, post some comments down below and we'll talk about it. Until next time guys, stay safe, stay free. If you haven't done so already, subscribe, like this video. We'll catch you on the next one.